Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Hey, you want to hear a good joke? Nobody speak, nobody get choked.
Back like LeBron James's hairline. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. It's Wake Up War Chant. Show's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Not just one Clark. We got two Clarks in the house today. Brady, say hello. Say it loud.
Hello, people.
There we go.
Good job, Brady.
There
nice
we go.
Work.
The better half of the Clark family joining us here in
that's right.
for a little bit. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Did you have a good weekend?
Dude, pretty good weekend. I can't complain. How about you? You've been on the road the whole time, I feel
Did
like.
a little Savannah?
How was
Savannah for 3 nights? It was
Haunted
good.
house tour or anything
Did a haunted pub crawl.
Ooh.
Didn't see any ghosts.
Okay.
Sadly.
Did you feel anything?
No. Well, there was one bar that was really cold, but I think that's just because they turned the AC down. I mean, come on. But no, didn't see anything. Didn't really feel anything. But yeah, it was still kind of cool to learn about the history of the city. Not a great history, I should say. There's been a lot of fires.
What's up with that?
Yeah, they just it was a huge cotton town, obviously. I guess it still might be, but yeah, so the cotton would always catch fire. And I guess, back then underdeveloped brains, they couldn't figure out a way to stop the fires.
Right.
But like with brick.
They
kept building with wood.
Do we still make a lot of cotton in the South?
I don't know how the textile industry is doing. I would think, but who knows. But yeah, it was really cool. It's a really cool city. If you haven't been, you should go.
I haven't been. I will. I'll put. How far is Savannah from Tallahassee?
About 4 hours.
Everything's about 4 hours from Tallahassee. Good grief.
But I would go to Savannah before I went to Charleston. I've been to both, but I think I like Savannah a little bit better.
Okay. All right. I feel like we've been away for a while, but we've been recording shows. We just haven't been in the pocket here in the 850 in Leon County. We're going to have a good week of shows for you this week. We'll have Michael Langston on later on, probably for the Thursday program to preview the Saturday Night Live recruiting event that's going down at Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday. If you're a fan of Florida State athletics or recruiting, or just want to watch some football in the middle of July,
better to do.
Yeah, it's going to be free of charge. Go to Doak Campbell. They're going to have some sort of skills competition maybe, but at least a 7-on-7 with all the elite of the elite in terms of who Florida State's targeting and recruiting. They're going to have this big, rendezvous in Doak Campbell Stadium. It's pretty cool.
All right, gang. If you're all for that, if you're interested in that, go for it.
Yeah. We'll have our sit-down one-on-one interview with Brian Burns from ACC Kickoff. We'll probably run that one tomorrow. Today's program, the final segment, we'll uncork the sit-down we had with Cam Akers. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to be very agreeable on taking me with him to the next level. I try to kind of pitch him on the whole, he's LeBron, I'm his Windhorst, bring me with you, let me hitch the wagon. He was kind of like, yeah.
But also, again, man, you don't know where he might end up in Buffalo, or he might end up in.
Let's go.
Name a city.
Green
it's
Bay.
Not as cool as Tallahassee.
Let's go.
Green Bay, yeah. I mean, odds are he'll probably end up somewhere cool, like Miami or LA.
Cam, come on,
Seattle.
Cam. I'll do your camps when you come back to Mississippi during the summer. The Cam Akers Way Out camp or whatever, and then I'll get your media obligations sorted out. I'll be like Turtle in Entourage.
And we did ask him about him throwing the ball.
Yeah,
The wild cam.
Wild Cam.
Which he liked. I would assume he had heard that before, but he acted like he was probably just humoring me.
No, these guys are dialed in, brother.
So, but yeah, the wild cam, if that's going to happen, and he knows his completion percentage in his career.
He's not reading the message boards. He's trying to work, man. Get ready for the next level.
Right, true. Good point.
Speaking of the message boards, you've been busy this whole weekend, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that you haven't had a chance to sit down and start ingesting and diving into Last Chance U Season 3.
I have not,
okay.
No. But I will probably starting this week. I'll probably get into it a little bit.
Please do, so we can talk about it. There's a lot to talk about from there. War Chant gets a pretty, not a plug, but there's a screenshot of our activity on our message boards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the context? Malik, I assume, right?
Yep.
Malik Henry?
Yeah. Basically, he mentions that our fan base is pretty mean-spirited and right on cue. WarChant.com. Telling the kids how much we love you coming to Tallahassee.
I mean, maybe don't mess up so much,
That's
Malik.
fair.
Man,
That's fair.
Maybe look inward instead of outward.
Unsurprisingly, I find him to be a quite sympathetic figure in the series. You probably won't, which is fine.
I don't know. I might.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you will. I think most people haven't, but I do. I don't think he's nearly as big a turd, to take a word from
Willie Taggart.
Yeah, as most people think he is. I don't find his behavior excusable, but it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it potentially would be. But we'll see. I mean, there's low lights. I didn't like it, man. I think I have about 3 episodes left. I was struggling to get through the first 2 episodes. I'm like, I can't do this. This guy is too much. The head coach, he's just.
He can't be worse than the last guy. Oh. The last guy, I just wanted to throw through a window. No way.
Oh,
man.
you wait, brother.
All right. I can't even imagine. That's why I was happy they left, because I was not going to watch another episode with that guy, with the head coach of, where are they, Pearl, Mississippi, or wherever.
Oh, no, don't disrespect Pearl.
What was it? Where were they? Where was the one last?
East Mississippi.
East Mississippi State. Where is that?
Golly, the city.
Scuba. Yeah,
Scuba.
That's right. That's right. How can I forget Scuba?
True.
But that guy was impossible. I couldn't watch another episode. I couldn't watch another season with that guy. So I was happy they switched it.
True story, not even a humble brag. 2013, I'd been in Mississippi for 2 years. It was July. I get a phone call. Our receptionist at the front of the TV station, like, you got a phone call from Buddy. And I'm like, who? She's like, Buddy. I'm like, whatever, send him through. Buddy Stevens, the head football coach at East Mississippi, actually offered me their sports information job. It was going to pay $45,000 a year, which was more money than I was making at the TV station.
Yeah, that seems like quite a bit for Scuba, Mississippi.
But I'm like, there's no way I could go live in Scuba, Mississippi.
Where were you living?
I was in Jackson. But I was still under contract. I would have to break out of my contract. It would have been kind of messy.
Yeah, sure.
And they had won a national championship, but the whole Netflix thing wasn't even on their radar.
Right.
I mean, if it was, would that have changed my mind? Potentially, but I don't know, Scuba has been. Where do you live in Scuba? Like, there's no apartment. You don't go to apartments.com and type in Scuba.
I don't know. I assume you live in an
Aspen Ridge Apartments pops up.
Maybe they have like a Hampton Inn or something, or a Holiday Inn Express.
They probably had some sort of dorm out.
You can live in the
campus.
dorms with the kids, with the players.
I might try to talk to Miss Wagner though, man. Like, what's up, Brittany?
Yeah, I like. She was actually both, especially the first season, was the hero. She was the protagonist. None of those kids cared. I shouldn't say none of them. Very few of them cared to be there. They didn't look like they were interested at all in academics, and she really was trying to get them eligible so they could go have a life. And it's just, the type of kid that ends up at JUCO isn't maybe the best self-starter.
Yeah.
Isn't the most driven. So I can't even imagine how maddening that job is, because you have the experience to know, man, I know 19, you don't think this matters, but when you're 28, you're going to look back at this and be like, God, why was I such an idiot?
Yeah.
But you can't teach people perspective. They get it on their own. But I can't imagine how maddening that must have been, that job.
You know who I want to get some insight on? I emailed you and Ira and yourself, but you guys were, he was sleeping. Hopefully, that poor guy. Golly, Ira grinds people. Be nice to Ira.
He does. I'm the prima donna of the group for sure. But he straight up grinds all the time.
Just constant. I don't even know when he sleeps. But I want to talk to Wally May. I wonder if we can get him on the show just to kind of talk. I don't want to talk about anything I just want to talk about his time, because I think he went to Fort Scott, which is in Kansas. They actually is a team that plays independence. Because what I've been able to kind of glean from, I think Wally's actually quite an I think Wally's in great academic standing. I think he might even have graduated. I'm not 100% sure.
And I've talked to him, and we both talked to him. He's an intelligent person. So what happened when you were 15 or 16 that you didn't take it seriously?
Right.
Because you obviously were smart enough to get the grades to go to a Division I school. So what happened?
Yeah.
That's what I always wonder with a lot of these kids. And obviously it's just, people go through ruts. Bernard James. We all remember Bernard James, the Sarge, but he went to JUCO. And Bernard James is one of the brightest people I've ever interviewed. Yeah. And I asked him about it. He's like, man, I didn't have any drive. My mom had other kids. She tried to hold me accountable, but it was on my own, and I would rather skateboard. I would rather skateboard than go to school. I just did not care about school. I think he said all he would do is watch cartoons and skateboard until he went in the military.
He skateboarded?
Yeah. And then he went to the military, and he started playing basketball. I don't think he played basketball at all in high school. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's just how do you, but to be able to break it, to like snap it and get solid footing.
Well, yeah, I just want to get it. Like, what was it like in Fort Scott, Kansas?
Oh God, can you imagine? Probably a lot like Scuba, Mississippi, or Jackson, or Shreveport.
Why do you always got to talk bad about these? I mean, come on, Jackson, Mississippi is the capital of Mississippi. It's a capital city. It's not that bad.
Well, but how bad
Mr.
is Scuba?
Atlanta?
How bad is Scuba,
Scuba's
Mississippi?
bad.
That somebody
Scuba's
in
bleak.
Jackson, Mississippi, is like, I cannot live there. I cannot live in that
Scuba's
place.
bad. It's because Scuba's really, really, really bad.
Yeah, and not probably close to much.
Yeah. All right, so it's already started, folks, and we're not talking about the countdown or football season, which has kind of had its unofficial start with ACC kickoff, but it's already started with the guy at Gainesville doing his part to perhaps stoke the flames of this rivalry. We'll talk about that next. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio's Wake Up War Chant. Welcome back to the work week. We're right back after this.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
The city falls just like the night or an angel does. Leave me here alone to collect my things. She sees music in the terror.
Wake up! 97.9 ESPN Radio's Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. Show's brought to you by Florida Table Hospitality. Use that promo code WarChant30. Join the family on warchant.com. All right, Corey, so like I was talking about in the previous segment, it's already started. I got to Mississippi in 2011. Dan Mullen, I think, got there in 2009. He quickly established Mississippi State as the top dog in the state of Mississippi, and they started their whole marketing campaign calling it Our State. So they're Mississippi State. People call them State. It was Our State. So everywhere there was billboards with the state of Mississippi on it in maroon. And then instead of the star, the capital being in Jackson, they'd have it in Starkville. They called it Our State. They were beating Ole Miss. Our State, school up north, blah, blah, blah. There's a lanyard out there. I saw a photo. It's blue, it's orange. It's Florida apparel. It says Our State on it. Florida, the Gators.
What do you mean you saw it?
On the internet. There's a photo of it. It's out there.
Oh, so that's starting again, you think?
He's starting it here. He's bringing it down here.
Oh, boy. Well, see, because Our State, when your name is Mississippi State, makes sense.
Right.
It's our state. It's our college. It's our Mississippi State University.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be saying Our State when it's the University of Florida, right?
I mean,
There's no play on words or anything. It's just, very presumptuous.
He's doing it.
He said, hey, man, good for, it worked in Mississippi. Why would it not work in Florida?
Well, I think he's 1-3 in his last 4 Egg Bowls up there, though. It really wasn't working too good.
Yeah, and he has no idea what it's like to be part of the Sunshine Showdown. Or whatever. Is that what we call it, right? The state of Florida presents the Sunshine Showdown.
The Florida Citrus Growers present the Sunshine Showdown. Something like
that just resonates. Doesn't that resonate?
Yeah. Tell all the kids about it back in the day. I just can't, the audacity. I know you have to rally the base, I guess, especially when they've been downtrodden and they've lost, 3 in a row? 4 in a row? 5? It's 5. 5 in a row?
Who? To the University of Florida, or to Florida State University?
Yeah.
University of Florida? Yeah. Correct.
And the ironic thing was he was mentioning it he wasn't mentioning that part. But
some of those weren't even great Florida State teams. You couldn't beat them, though.
Can you believe, Muschamp won his first year?
Yeah.
Florida,
and talk smack
State.
about it.
Got this.
Talk smack about it at halftime and after the game. Like, oh, yeah, we knew we could run on them. We faced a lot better defenses than that. All right, buddy. Go take care of Louisville in whatever bowl game that is. Nope.
Wrong.
Then you're terrible for the next 5 years.
But he was talking to SEC Media Days about how the Florida-Georgia series is a healthy rivalry, implying that Mississippi State-Ole Miss was not a healthy rivalry.
Oh, but he wasn't implying anything about Florida State.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, he was probably the most instrumental person in making that thing absolutely toxic and miserable, the Egg Bowl. I mean, it was horrible up there. It was really, really bad.
I just wouldn't seem like him and Willie Taggart would really butt heads that much. Oh. But you think so? He's just got that in him?
Because Willie's cool. Willie's transparent. Willie keeps it. I don't think Willie's going to do a lot of passive-aggressive things. Willie is who he is. 100 pounds is 100 pounds in his world. Dan Mullen is very subtle, very passive-aggressive, I don't know what you're talking about. What, me? Mm-hmm. Who's the guy on the cover of Mad Magazine?
Alfred E. Newman?
Yeah, me? What, me? Me? What, me worry?
Right.
Mullen is slimy like that. I don't think Willie might whatever. Willie's got his coolness, maybe his certain way, his suaveness of doing this, but Mullen is just it's starting already. Our State.
He's not a fisherman, is he? Like he won't go out deep sea fishing for sharks or anything, Willie? Or we're past that, right? The Florida head coaches.
No questions about sharks at this SEC meeting.
It is crazy, I'm sure I brought this up 1,000 times. This isn't anything new, but just how many coaches the University of Florida has had in my lifetime, and then Florida State's had 3.
Yeah,
I mean, Florida must have had 12, including interims. I mean, Jimbo coached against 5, and then you had Charlie Pell, you had Galen Hall, you had interims there, you had Spurrier, and you just Urban. I mean, you had a ton.
Urban, Muschamp, McElwain, Randy Shannon, interim guy. But then, I mean, I guess you could say Odell was interim, so Florida State's had 4 in your lifetime.
That's
if you
true.
want to be
That's
that
true.
guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Still, it's they've made some really bad, odd hires,
and
a
I'll
couple
be
and
honest,
2 great ones.
Muschamp had me nervous. McElwain, I could see it maybe working, but I was very nervous. When they hired Muschamp, and then Muschamp got Charlie Weiss, I'm like, oh, God, they're back. They're not even going to take a step back. And then look how that worked out.
Right, yeah.
Losers.
Man, that was an awful, awful setup.
Let's go macro on that, though. I mean, think about teams that have won national titles in your lifetime and the amount of turnover they've had. I mean, look at Alabama in your lifetime. Look at Southern Cal. I mean, they have Clay Helton now. Then they had Kiffin. They had Pete Carroll before Pete. I don't even know who was before Pete Carroll at Southern Cal. Was it John Robinson again?
It could have been, yeah. And then he replaced. Yeah, he got hired again, and then I think Pete Carroll might have replaced him, which at the time was really lampooned.
Yeah.
Like, quit going to the NFL guys to get these head coaches. Quit it. It's not working because Pete Carroll just come from the Patriots, right, or somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, he turned out to be one. That was one of the best fits in college football history.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best. He turned that thing into a absolute juggernaut.
Look at LSU. Like Gary DiNardo, then Saban, Les Miles.
Yeah, man, that's why I've always, and I got into, people mocked me a couple years ago when Jimbo was looking at the LSU job and said, man, they're not on equal footing. They're not the same job. Florida State is a better job. It's proven to be a better job. They have, I don't know, they probably averaged a win and a half more per season over the last 40 years. LSU, the only time LSU in the last 40 years has been a better program than Florida State, last 50 years really, was when Bobby Bowden was at the end of his career and the best college football coach of all time was at LSU.
Yeah.
That's the only time. That's the only window where you could say, yeah, man, LSU's better than Florida State. LSU's on equal footing. Everything else, Florida State has been better. And I know you can look at Florida State, and I was like, the point of the column I wrote at that time was like, look, if Jimbo leaves, he leaves. Florida State will be just fine. That's been proven over 40 years. Because you could just say, well, Florida State was always was kind of just the work of Bobby Bowden, and then they got lucky with Jimbo Fisher. But if they hire a terrible coach, then things could go poorly, and I get that, and that can happen. But it wasn't like the Bobby Bowden of 1979 was the Bobby Bowden of 1996. Like, I know he was the same person, but it was it was essentially a different coach than the guy. He was a delegator. Mm-hmm. He handed responsibility to other people. In the early 80s and late 70s, he was running the show. So they won with middle-aged Bobby Bowden, old Bobby Bowden, and fiery assistant coach with no head coach experience at all. They've proven they can win different ways, and that's why I think, it's odd to me that Florida keeps making bad choices. And again, Dan Mullen might knock it out of the park. He might be incredible. But it's odd that, 2 out of their last 6 hires haven't been very good. Right? 2 out of their last 5?
Jim McElwain was a decent coach at Colorado State. Like, Will Muschamp was head coach in waiting at Texas. He left Texas to come to Florida because he didn't want to wait, which nobody – I mean, you take that job if you're Will Muschamp. I mean, I don't know how much of it is – is there dynamics in play that only Spurrier was deft enough to work around, and whatever that was, Urban Meyer was able to get enough talent to overcome
Urban Meyer was
it?
a great recruiter, is a great recruiter, and Steve Spurrier was so innovative that, I want to go play for that. I don't want to go play for Alabama where I might catch one pass a game. I want to go play for that guy, and it was more fun, just like Florida State was fun. And Urban Meyer was a great recruiter. Winning at Colorado State, it's okay, man, awesome, great. Who are you recruiting against? Because recruiting against the Air Force in Colorado and New Mexico State and those teams is a whole different animal than recruiting against Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Miami, in the schools you have to recruit in the South. That's why, again, I know Willie Taggart hasn't been a head coach, hasn't recruited for Florida State, but he's had to recruit against Florida State. He did really well in South Florida, and he has a lot of connections in the state he needs a lot of connections in. Yeah. Again, it just seems like it's a natural fit. And I thought, Dan Mullen, at least Dan Mullen was at Florida before, right? He was there for the glory years.
He was there for both of them.
For Urban Myers. So
he pulled a Mark Richt without – he actually stayed engaged and gave his employer a national title and then left.
Right.
Whereas Mark Richt was like, I don't know.
Yeah, plus Mark could have used Snoop. Snoop, you could have gotten on the field, man. Golly. That would have been a difference maker, I think.
Brett Cimarelli could have had a better foot.
Yeah, Javon Walker, I think, had a ball. He dropped a
Robert Morgan,
touchdown.
That was
Robert Morgan dropped a diving one in the end zone that went right through his arms. Javon Walker dropped like a cross over the middle, like a 20-yard deep,
Square
It wasn't
in.
even a post. It was just a square in about 20 yards down the field where the safety had bitten. And if he caught it, I mean, with his speed, there's no chance
the gate.
of touchdown. He's out the gate. And he dropped it. And they punted and never came close to scoring again.
That was a dark game.
It was. But back then, you thought, oh, well, Florida State will be back next year. Who cares?
I tell you, though, I mean, he had, if Will Grier doesn't do whatever the hell Will Grier
That
did.
might have been the one. That might have been the whole deal right there.
I mean,
Because they looked like a legitimate top 10 type team with that kid at quarterback.
I was at that game. I went to this again. I've said the story before. I went to the Swamp because it was an Ole Miss game and they had just beaten Alabama, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna wallop Florida. I'd love to watch them get stomped. And one of my friends from Jackson was down covering it for work, and then, I mean, Will Grier comes out there looking like Danny Werfel with dark hair and a mustache. I mean, just I'm like, oh God, they're back.
But they don't look like they have a ton of it doesn't seem like they have a ton of talent on that roster right now.
Don't.
Which is almost like you have
And
to
they're not
actively,
doing really well at recruiting.
No, they're not right
It's
now. No.
Great. It's awesome.
But it's almost like you have to actively try to not get players at Florida.
Right.
You're at Florida, man. That's a great job. It's hard to have a roster when you have an engaged head coach. Because, again, Florida State 10 years ago, they struggled to get players. But now you have an engaged head coach at Florida, and you've had an engaged head coach at Florida for the last decade. And for whatever reason, man, McElwain really dried up under him. Yeah. And he's an odd dude. Dan Mullen seems like an odd dude. Yeah. Maybe he's not. Maybe you've dealt with him.
He is. I rooted for Ole Miss over them, and I probably had more Mississippi State friends, but I did not care for Dan Mullen. He just didn't. He never answered questions honestly. He would just go on his own tangents and smile and grin and joke. It was like, no, man, you didn't answer my question. I don't appreciate this.
And certainly I could be second guessed with this, and it could come back to be a really dumb statement. But I just don't see how he's going to load up that roster when he's recruiting against the guy in Tallahassee. Yeah. I just don't see if a 5-star prospect, if those are his schools, why in the world he'd go play for that guy over Willie Taggart. It's just, other than if he's like a legacy of Florida.
The SEC, bro. It's the SEC, man.
Yeah, man. All right.
It's the SEC.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about plenty more, too. It's Wake Up War Chant. Come right back after this. 97.9 ESPN Radio.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Program's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. I should have pulled up the countdown clock. I'll do so right now. But, Corey, I don't know if it's because we are getting so close. I don't know if it's because of ACC kickoff, your column, the things you've said, the things that we've reported on. But it feels like 10 wins has now almost become the floor on warchant.com.
Oh, no.
I don't know if the optimism is growing because we're getting closer, but it feels like folks, I don't know if they're getting more excited because we're getting closer to kickoff, or it's because of what Willie said or how he carried himself or the way he talked to us on Wake Up War Chant on Friday. I'm seeing a lot more 10-win predictions. We're going 10-2. Tell me how we won't go 10-2 sort of stuff. Was there anything that happened, or is this just what happens for most fan bases, do you think, as we get closer, that the optimism starts people open up their hearts a little bit more now?
Sure. It's the perfect, July is the perfect time to be an optimistic college football fan, man. That's just how it works. Everybody thinks hey, man, if things break the right way, we can win 8, even the bad, awful teams. Like, if things break the right way, we can win 8-9 games. Florida State right now, but I would say 10 wins is the floor, but it's certainly a possibility. I mean, it's a realistic floor. It's a realistic season, I think, to go 10-2. It's also realistic that they win 7. I mean, it just is.
Oh, stop that.
It just is. It is. I want to see these players. It's the same players as last year. It's a different coaching staff and a different system. But will these players be I don't know. I don't know what the word is, what the phrasing is.
How can they not? Everybody's so engaged. I heard Brian Burns. There's rules, there's law, there's order. We love it. Cam Akers, we bought into it. You listen to Kodak Black. He's the dude. We love him.
It seems like it's going to take longer, and I think he is doing it. I think he's in the midst of doing it. But I also think I think it takes longer than one offseason to change a culture. Most of these kids have been on campus for more than a year. There's been one way they were doing things, and it can take longer than that to change it. I mean, Jimbo did win 10 his first year. Now, it was 10-4. It was a different-looking 10. But he still won 10 games in a bowl game and made it to the ACC championship game. Clemson wasn't Clemson back then. But so, it's a possibility, and I wouldn't be stunned if they won 10 games. I mean, they talented.
That's your prediction. You
they're
better not be
talented,
stunned.
man.
That was your prediction on Hot Topics.
They're talented, man. They're talented. I think, the column I wrote this weekend was about how, and I think I talked about it while we were up there in Charlotte, how I really get the feeling that Francois is the guy. The way Willie talked about him, to me implies that Francois is the guy. Or he knows he's going to need Francois. And that's a good quarterback, man. He's a good quarterback. The other guy's good, too.
Yep.
But the fact that if Francois if he can build on what he did 2 years ago and have a good season, then you always have a great running back. You have who we think are going to be great wide receivers or good wide receivers that could be great in a year or two. There's a lot of reason to be excited. There is. It's just a hard schedule. You can be a better team, a much better team than last year, and still only win one extra game or 2 extra games.
You mentioned it, I think, on the program yesterday or on Friday. We're not recording on a Saturday, by the way, folks.
We would never do that. Got too many things to do.
You said something like the program rotted from the inside out. It rotted. Pretty strong words, but
it was a slow rot.
Right.
To me, I thought it was a bit of a slow rot.
But at the same time, aren't there enough kids that know what it takes to win? Isn't there still a winning culture around Florida State that it's not going to take as long to turn things around here as it would for somebody who is going to inherit, I don't know, Miami, like a Mark. I mean, look at Mark Richt. Look how quickly. I mean, you want to talk about a program that I don't know, maybe didn't rot, but just
but again, how good
lousy.
How good was that team last year? Was it appreciably better than the team the year before, or did it get really lucky in a couple of games?
But don't the things that made Florida State lose to Louisville last year, that made them lose, aren't those things that Willie can instantly fix almost in year one to where they will be better?
I mean, I think so. I think there are he is instilling things that I think will pay off in the fourth quarter of games when it's close. I do think that. But again, it's just such a hard schedule. If you're in 6 close games and you lose 3 of them, well, now you're 9-3, and that if only half your games are close. If 8 of them are close and you win half of them, that means you're 8-4.
So 9-3 still gives you the option to go 10-3.
That's true. That's true. And hey, man, if depending on who you lose to, maybe you're playing in an ACC championship game. Yeah. I wouldn't think so, but maybe. I mean, you look at that schedule, they can win every game on that schedule. Obviously, there's nobody on that schedule that you're like, oh boy, they have no chance.
Right.
You would think maybe Clemson, but man, they've hung with Clemson the last 3 years easily. I mean, they've been in every game in the fourth quarter with a chance to win. But, at Louisville, at Miami, at NC State, at Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, those are hard games.
They are.
And that's not even Clemson. Not even include Clemson.
I do like the way it's sort of spaced out, I guess.
I just think that at Louisville, at Miami, followed by and then a month later at NC State, at Notre Dame, those are tough stretches. Those are tough stretches. You look at that and you're like, okay, 3-1 would be great with those 4 road games.
Oh yeah,
but what's likely? 2-2, maybe.
Yeah.
So then you're okay. Well, now you got to win all the other ones, including at home against Clemson, which again can be done. Clemson is certainly beatable. They've proven that each of the last 2 years, and again, Florida State had them on the ropes even last year. That dismal season. They got that turnover, the 4th down stop, whatever. Then they get a turnover around midfield, down by 3 late in the fourth quarter, and then Blackman immediately threw the interception.
Right.
I mean, they were in the game with a chance to win the game.
Didn't Burns also create the turnover and Matthew Thomas tried to scoop and score, but they just end up – I mean, he should have been able to deep in Florida State territory.
Yeah, like if he
Scoop scored have been like a 95-yard touchdown, but he just
it might have been. You're right. That would have been, and they weren't going to catch Matthew Thomas.
No.
Nobody in a goal line jumbo package was going to catch Matthew Thomas from 10 yards behind. So yeah, man, Florida State was in that game. That's the thing, and that's what Willie talked about on Thursday in Charlotte. Is like, they weren't a tough team. We've talked about that. They weren't tough. And all that, much of that can go back to accountability and dependability and discipline. And they just weren't tough. When the going got tough, whether it's in wherever, the classroom, off the field, on the field, they didn't bow up. And which is odd, man. That's not Jimbo.
Your principle's Ted, the Ted principle, right? Toughness, effort, discipline.
Yeah, I mean, but what happened there, man? That wasn't Jimbo. Jimbo's a tough dude, and he's tough on all of them. And I just, I think when you have that, I don't know, man, his message just stopped resonating with those guys. Maybe he was recruiting the wrong kind of player. They didn't have any leadership on the field aside from the coaches, and you do need that, man. That 2013 team had great leaders and guys that were kind of, Terrence Brooks wasn't a heralded recruit. None of those guys, Telvin Smith had never really done anything in college until that last year, anything of note. So they all played with chips on their shoulders. And then they all went away. Jalen Ramsey played with a chip on his shoulder because that's just how he was wired. And DeMarcus Walker, too. But there's just not enough of those guys, right?
There wasn't.
And what happened? Where did it go? Why would you get so lax on stuff in the classroom? Why would you let them get away with so much? Why would you let them get away with missing workouts?
$1 million question. 3 really smart guys who've covered the beat wrote long-form pieces on why they think it happened that way, and we still don't know. A.k.a. the Jimbo Chronicles, you yourself, Ira. And
it's just odd it's odd how it got away from them. It is. I don't know if I don't know why he seemed to take his foot off the pedal when it came to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, you talked about leadership, though. I mean, it goes back to the point that Brian Burns was the guy to be there for the defense, and you're like, wow, we were all probably thinking it was going to be DeMarcus Christmas. But then you also have a guy like Levante Taylor on the back end. There's probably plenty of voice in that defensive side of things. Offensively, Alec Eberle is your prototypical rah-rah offensive lineman that really holds them together. I don't know who's going to be the guy for the wide receivers. Maybe Nooney kind of gets something smacked into him. But, Cam sounds like he's taken the onus as well, that Willie's challenged him personally. Like, you need to not only be the best player on this team, but you need to be one of the stronger voices. So, those guys are emerging. Feels good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how 12 does with it, because 12 isn't a natural leader at all. He doesn't have the qualities that you want in a quarterback when it comes to that, or he hasn't displayed those for his first few years on campus. And that's not, you can be a quiet leader. Mariota, by all accounts, was a great leader at Oregon. They loved that guy, and they would run through a wall for him. And he had some similar traits to Charlie Ward in that regard. Charlie Ward didn't say boo. But those guys loved Charlie Ward, and they would fight. He got hurt in that Wake Forest game in '93, and William Floyd wanted to kill the dude that did it. That was their guy, and they loved that guy, and they played for him. DeAndre, you can be the quiet guy. I think Deshaun
Watson, I don't think he was
he wasn't a rah-rah guy, but they loved those guys, and that's about being a great teammate. And that's what Francois hasn't been, but, Willie said all the way he talked about Francois was like, it either DeAndre has gotten it, it's clicked, and he has gotten it, or Willie wants us to believe that he's gotten it.
We'll find out soon enough. We spoke to Cam Akers about a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We'll let you listen to all of it right after this, right here on Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
We're back from Charlotte. By we, I mean myself, Aslan, and he, Corey Clark, our senior writer and columnist for WarChant.com. But there's plenty that went on in Charlotte for ACC kickoff that we weren't able to really put all out there for you folks. Not because we were, holding out on you, but just, there's time constraints here and there. We spoke to Willie. You heard from Willie on Friday. We also spoke to Brian Burns. We'll air that interview tomorrow. But we also have Cam Akers, who we sat down with, and we'll play that with you here in a little bit. Cam. He's got a lot of big goals, it seems like. I'm all on the Cam train because I covered him in high school, What were your thoughts just sitting down talking to Cam? Was there anything physically that maybe stood out to you? Was there anything he said, his appearance? He dressed very well. I was quite jealous of his getup.
What I did like, number one, it was hard. That was the time where we had the hard audio. So and he's a softly spoken kid.
Yes.
So half the time I just nodded because I couldn't hear what he was saying. That's a joke, folks. But no, the 1,800 to 2,000 yards, him wanting to do that, which is fine. We hear college kids say this stuff all the time. It's really hard to do. But the fact that he doesn't want a ton of carries to do it and doesn't think he needs a ton of carries to do it. And I think we even talked about that in the moment. But that, to me, that number one says, well, yeah, because you're not going to get 28 carries a game. But also he wants the other guys to get a chance to shine, too, because he knows they're good, and they are good. He's the best of the bunch, most likely, it would appear. But those other guys can really help him out, too, and give him a breather so he's fresher in the third or fourth quarter when you go and win games.
Right. All right, without further ado, then, thanks for listening today. We're going to go ahead and let that interview play. He is Corey. I am Aslan. Here's Cam Akers breaking my heart and telling me that he's not going to take me with him on his NFL journey. Have a great one, folks.
So you think you earned that? You think you earned the 3 back?
Ultimately, I feel like I did, but ultimately, it's up to Coach Tag, and we'll be seeing in like a week. Fall camp started like a week, so. But I feel like I'm going to be number
You feel like you're the 3.
All right, so Cam, I'm going to be like your Brian Windhorst. You know, Windhorst covered LeBron in high school. LeBron went to the league. I covered you in high school. I covered you in college. So when you take this into the next level, I'm going to follow you along as well. You know, obviously I know you from your time in Clinton, Mississippi in high school. And I covered you and saw how great you were performing, obviously, at the high school level. And everyone was like, hey, man, wouldn't that be really cool if Cam ended up going to Florida State? I'm like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And it ended up happening that way. But for you, you could have gone anywhere, man. I mean, you were originally Alabama, committed to Alabama. Ole Miss wanted a piece of you. LSU. I mean, everybody in the nation wanted a piece of you. How did you end up? I mean, my thing is, I always thought you had great admiration for Coach Fisher and for Coach Graham. Those were kind of the guys that helped you sway your decision to come to Tallahassee. When they left, I mean, what was that sort of feeling like for you?
It was a sense of change. Like I wasn't expecting it. It was unexpected for me, but it's just something you take and run with it. Like coaching changes happen all the time, and we accepted Coach Tag, and he accepted us, and we happy.
Right. I know you got your eye on that next level eventually, and I always thought that the pro style sort of offense was something that you gravitated towards. I mean, was it a tough sell when you figured out that you were no longer going to be running that, and it was going to be a more up tempo, no huddle sort of attack?
I kind of wanted to go into the pro style coming out of high school so it could get me ready for the league if I was fortunate enough to go. But I like the offense we're in also now. This is a great offense, a lot of space, a lot of big plays to be made in this offense.
When did you know you were a badass at football?
I still don't know that.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, were you 7 and scored a bunch of touchdowns? Were you 9? Like, when did you become?
Yeah, I started when I was like 6.
And were you the running back right away?
I played quarterback.
Okay, but at that age, you're running a lot as the quarterback, right?
Yeah, I was running a lot.
And when did it click with you, man? These people have a hard time catching me. They have a hard time tackling me. Maybe I have something special here.
I wanted to quit football when I first started, but my dad made me stick with it. Like all throughout, he made me play, and I can't thank him enough. It got me here. So
why'd you want to quit?
I was a basketball player.
Oh, really?
Basketball only. That's what I was. But I'm glad I stuck with football.
Yeah, it worked out for you. How good were you at basketball?
Some people would say just as good as football if you go home. Some people would say.
When'd you stop playing?
High school.
Okay, you didn't play in high school, or you? Oh, okay.
I stopped in high school, like 10th grade.
What was the most points you ever scored in a game? Were you a pass vert? Were you a point guard, I assume?
Point guard, shooting guard, small forward.
Oh, okay.
I scored like 30-some points.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
I put points up.
I feel like we had similar athletic ability growing up. It's like looking into a mirror with this guy sometimes.
I think you have better range, though, Corey.
Yeah.
Cam had to finish close to the basket. You know, Cam, you obviously were the quarterback in high school. You talked about being a quarterback, growing up playing football. You know, the football's always been in your hands when you've played the game. Last year as a freshman, you kind of had to share reps at first, but then you took over the reign. With, you know, Jaquez being a senior and then Kalen showing what he can do in the spring and then Zaquandre and Amir, you've always been the alpha. Can you still be Cam Akers? Can you still be the best player you can possibly be if you're not going to get the ball 28 times, you know, handed to you in a game?
28 times, a lot of carries. That's a lot of carries, but I don't think it take that many to accomplish what some of the goals I'm trying. 28, I don't think it take that many. And with the backs we have, you won't be missing a beat. They'll come in and give you good production, good runs, good yards, everything, touchdowns.
What are some of these goals?
18 to 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 200, 300 receiving yards. Win the championship. That's first.
If you do all that, you're going to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. May not win it, but you'll be there. You'll be invited. Is that something you've ever thought about? Growing up in Mississippi, like, man, one day watching the Heisman ceremony on TV, like one day I could be.
Definitely. Something I always dreamed about, and a goal I've always set for myself. But right now, that's not the focus of what's going on right now. I'm just trying to get Florida State back, help Florida State get back to where we were, and that'll come if it comes.
Florida State running back Cam Akers joining us here on Wake Up War Chant. Cam, how's the offseason been for you guys? I mean, obviously Coach O, there's a new strength program and all that kind of stuff. How has the offseason been for you physically and your teammates? How's that new sort of regimen been for you guys, strength training?
Oh, it's been great. Coach O came in, and he pushes us to the max. Every time he doesn't let anybody slack. Everybody's always working and working hard at that. So I can't thank Coach O enough for coming in and just getting everybody right, getting everybody back on track with physically and mentally. Was there not as big of a demand in the weight room last year, or less accountability? It was a demand, but it was more amongst the team last year, but we weren't buying in to what was going on like in the weight room. So, but this year the team kind of bought into more what's going on, and you can see it's paying off. Was there like a point last year where things started feeling weird? This wasn't what you kind of necessarily signed up for. You didn't think, you came to Florida State obviously to win championships, and just things didn't feel right. For me, I wouldn't know what weird. Last year, I didn't know what weird felt like because I was a freshman. I was just coming in, so I didn't know how things were supposed to go, just in everyday life in college and football. I didn't know, but expectation-wise, we didn't. I expected more as far as winning. I wanted to win more, but it was a learning experience. Gave us a lot to. That was frustrating. I mean, you come from Mississippi. You could have gone anywhere. You came to Florida State. You come so far away from home, and you didn't sign for a 7-6 season. I mean, how frustrating was that? Oh, it was definitely frustrating. But got to take the bitter with the sweet and learn from it, and just it's something you never want to happen again as a team and personally. So it's a lot of pride on our shoulders for that.
How much lobbying will you do with Coach Taggart and the other offensive coaches to throw the ball? Me? Yeah. I know you can throw, man, and you know you can throw. I don't do any lobbying at all. Sure you don't. Because you call it the wild cam. We already got a name for it if you're the quarterback back there, the wild cam. But is that something that you – I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you daydream about that, but that could be something that could be used throughout the season. If Coach Tag implements something like that, I wouldn't be against it. Fair. I can say that. I wouldn't be against it. What's your completion percentage in college? I forget. 100. You're 1 for 1, right? That's all I'm saying. The other guys can't say that. 100%. You and Odell, man, just going perfect out there last season. It was a piece of cake. Hey, some of the more of the off-season stuff. I know there's been like team building exercises, things like that. You guys do some of the Navy SEALs. Can you walk us through what was that about? What was that day? To kind of point out the leaders of the team. That was, I felt like, the main purpose of that leadership and accountability. They came and they put us through a lot of hard stuff in the water and outside of the water. They put us through a lot of hard stuff. So, and they kind of made you want to bark at your teammates, but it's a way to do everything, and that's how they showed us leadership and being a good teammate. So that was a great experience. How good is Tamorrion Terry? Oh, Tamorrion? Yeah, 2018 season, almost here. He'll be out there making plays. What Coach Taggart said the first couple days of practice, at bowl practice, that he came to see you guys for the first time, he was one of the first names he asked about. Who's number, I think, 15? Who's that dude? Was he doing that all fall in practice and stuff? Was he making plays like that? Yeah, he always been able to. He's always had the ability to make those plays, but I feel like it was a learning curve for him coming into college, just like anybody else. It was a learning curve for him. But he's always had the ability to make those plays, and he's always made those plays. It's just now he's a little more mature in doing those things. So you'll be seeing a lot of him. Yeah, a lot of him.
Can you describe to us, I mean, we don't obviously get to know, I mean, I know you can't tell us who somebody is to the absolute core of who they are, but can you describe to us and let the people at home know, like, what kind of dude James Blackman is, what kind of guy DeAndre is?
James, they both got a lot of similarities as far as being who the position makes them be. Leaders, great people on and off the field. Everybody loves being around both of those guys, and I'm glad to have both of those guys as my quarterbacks because they both get the job done, and they both are great leaders, great teammates.
What was the most touchdowns you scored in a game in Mississippi?
High school?
Anytime. Scored
Like
life.
6.
You scored 6 in a game?
Yeah.
Was it high school?
It was like my last year of rec football, little league football.
Oh, man, y'all couldn't, like, take you out of the game after the 5th one?
It was like a big game, though. It was a rivalry game, and I scored 6 times.
So
Still hold the record to this day.
How big a deal for the people that obviously know you're a big deal, you're a 5-star guy, but Florida State gets a lot of 5-star guys, obviously. In your town in Mississippi, how big a deal were you? Like, when did you first sign your first autograph?
Man, I was probably like 8th grade.
You're signing autographs?
Grade. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole town kind of knew you coming up?
Yeah.
What was there pressure that comes with that? And that's our last question with you, but is there pressure that comes with that?
Oh, nah, no pressure. Everybody in Clinton and really surrounding areas in Mississippi, there's just support. It's a lot of support in Mississippi, and I love where I'm from, and I couldn't be more grateful to have everybody support me and just everybody who's doing something positive, and I appreciate that.
Cam, we got like 45 seconds. We're going to go speed. You got to go. Hurry up. No tempo. All right, here we go. All right, group of guys snatches your mom's purse away from her. You only have one teammate to go help you get it back. Who are you taking with you?
Black.
Who's that?
James Black.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Who's most likely to become president in that locker room?
President?
Yeah.
Logan Tyler.
All right, LeBron or MJ?
LeBron.
What's your favorite uniform combo?
All black, even though I ain't wore it yet.
All right.
Are you going to wear it?
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Cam Akers, thanks so much for your time, man. Appreciate it, man. Best luck to you.